This is the JWN podcast. Welcome to episode number 80. I'm your host, Joseph Nienstedt. Today we've got a very special guest, Natasha Nast. She's a professional dancer with the Palmetto City Ballet, as well as with the Underground Ballet Project. When she's not performing, she also teaches advanced ballet and jazz classes in the Charleston area. She's an exceptionally gifted artist with an unforgiving work ethic that's led to a successful career, even though, by ballet standards, she was a late starter. We had a fun conversation. I know you're going to enjoy it, so let's just get right into my conversation with Natasha Nast. I've been working in technology long enough to just completely live my life by the fact that whatever could go wrong will go wrong. Mm-hmm. So if at least there was a time when I had 3 different recording devices going on. So it's I think that's overkill. Maybe. I don't know. Well, I haven't had a huge failure.
Go knock on wood somewhere.
Yes. No, I'm not. They're over there. Hold on. let me stretch all the way. Hold on.
Just in case.
There we go.
Good. Okay.
There we go. I knocked on wood once. On fake paneling in our van. So I used to play in a band back. We don't know each other very well.
I know.
So before we get started, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
So I used to play in this band, and we were on tour. This was our first nationwide tour of the United States. And we're like kids, basically. And we're driving around in this van, and at a certain point, it broke down. We took it to this repair shop. They fixed it. It basically blew most of our budget trying to fix this van. And we're driving, and we're in the middle of Texas. So we're driving away from the site. I'm not the site, the what do you call it? Repair shop. And I'm like, oh, it's running good. And I went to knock on wood, and they had plastic wood paneling in this Ford Econoline van, cargo van. And I knocked on it, and it was on beat. I was knock, and then boom, the damn engine basically blew out.
Oh my God. And
so ever since that day, it's the one superstition I still hold to to be I just believe if you knock on wood and don't actually knock on wood, if you say knock on wood and knock on plastic, you better brace yourself.
That's so funny. I think about that every time I go to knock on wood. Is this real wood, or do I need to stand up and go somewhere?
And does pressboard count? I mean, I guess it's tree derived.
I never count it. I need to go find a piece of furniture or
And if something's laminated, you're really is there wood underneath there?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know. Yeah, I just try to find something that I know for sure because I don't want to jinx that.
Yeah. Well, so I'm going to rewind.
The jinx savior.
Yes. Well, I'm going to rewind a little bit because right before I hit record, you said something that I find completely interesting.
Oh, no.
Is you said that you're one of the only professional ballet or ballerinas or dancers, I should say, not just ballet. You do other dance forms, I take it, that doesn't practice yoga.
Well, I don't know about out of everyone, but definitely it seems like a lot of the dancers in my company really love yoga.
And that's how I got to know them all, is through yoga.
Well, a lot of them teach.
Yep.
So I have never taught yoga, definitely not, but yeah. I just feel that's a really fun pastime for them, and I'm supportive of them, and it's not that I don't like it, it's just not something that I do all the time.
Well, there's a lot of similarities and a lot of the signature ballet moves. I don't know what I'm talking about. So I'm just going to use very generic terms when I describe things. But when I watch a ballet with my knowledge of yoga things, I'm like, oh, look at that. That's just, that thing put in motion almost. That's a yoga pose that's basically moving a little bit more artistically, or you know what I'm saying,
moving through position.
But then I start thinking, I'm like, oh my gosh, they're still dancing. They're doing this is like the world's most intense power yoga class, watching people dance.
Yeah, it's a lot. It depends on the show. Could have an easy show. There are some shows where you're just a supernumerary, which is just a person, basically an extra, standing on the side of the stage, and you act. And you don't even dance. Yeah. There are people that do that all the time. But And then, but it's funny though, like if there's a show that you're doing that has 2 different casts, one show, like the matinee or something, you might be doing a super or supernumerary role. And then the show later that night, you might do the lead role. So it's pretty funny.
Is that by design, or is it just because maybe someone got injured, or
just when there are multiple casts, you just go in and out, especially for shows like the Nutcracker, where one day you'll be the maid and then the next day you're the Sugar Plum Fairy, or the same day.
You actually just brought up a question I have, because whenever the Nutcracker comes, there's like in any major city in the United States, there's like multiple companies. There's the Russian ballet, and I'm like, those aren't Russians. Those are like high school kids from around here, half the cast.
Yeah, so that's the Moscow Ballet.
Moscow Ballet.
And they're like a touring company, and they send someone, I'm not really sure, but I'm pretty sure they send someone to every city that they perform in, and they like rehearse some students. So they want kids in each cast, but the kids don't tour.
So all those kind of minor positions, like you just said, like the kind of stand-in or the bodies that are just, or maybe they're just moving slightly and artistically, but they're not the focus. So all those people are just locals, basically. That's awesome, though. Like, I think that's kind of cool.
I think it is cool, too. And it gives children an opportunity where maybe that studio doesn't do a Nutcracker to perform on a big stage and be around professional dancers. I think I had never been around professional dancers until I was out of high school. Yeah. So, I mean, I was a little bit of a late bloomer in that sense. Like I grew up not really doing ballet that seriously. I didn't really like it. And then I was like 12 or 13 and I found that there were videos on YouTube. This is a huge ramble, but I found videos on YouTube and I spent like 8 hours or something crazy on YouTube, like looking up variations. I didn't know what a ballet variation was, which is basically like a solo or a set piece of choreography. And I just like became this bunhead overnight, which is like a ballet nerd. And I'm still that. Like I still watch a bunch of YouTube videos. My Instagram is covered with ballet. So like,
yeah, it's your life.
I don't even know how I got on that subject.
Well, because we were talking about exposure to professionals.
Oh, right, yes.
So I am floored because the other dancers I've had on the podcast that are also, would you call them coworkers or
colleagues.
Colleagues? Crystal Wellman and Amanda, and they've both, they started as little kids. I mean, 13 is still pretty young.
Yeah. But, I mean, I started dance young too. I started at 2. But I was a competition kid, like Dance Mom style.
Ah, but you didn't have the bug. You were just kind of forced into it. Or not forced, but you were catered into it by your parents.
Yeah, so it's actually, my mom brings this up all the time. So I did not want to go, I didn't really want to go to the first ballet class. It was a ballet and tap combination class.
No way.
So it was like a little tots class. I think I was just like okay about it, but I was a little scared. And then I took the class and I will never forget this. I had this turquoise sequin leotard and skirt combo, my black tap shoes. I took the class. I remember my mom coming into the studio to take pictures, which is like so silly, but we still have them. And then I didn't want to leave, and my mom was holding me, and I was holding onto the door frame, like with my fingers, like sideways, because I just wanted to stay so bad. But
so you did have the bug, you just didn't
for dance.
But you chose ballet at 13. Is that what?
Around there, yeah. So I did a lot of jazz, a lot of tap, lyrical, which is interesting. It's kind of like contemporary, but I grew up doing a lot of that. And then I had this really wonderful ballet teacher, Miss Nancy, and she gave me a ballet variation to do. And we were doing private lessons, and I just found YouTube and all of that stuff. I think, she gave me the ballet variation. And I remember she said it's the Paquita variation. And then I looked it up and then I sent her a link to the video and I said, is this right? And she goes, oh no, actually it's the Kitri variation from Don Quixote. And from there I was like, oh, so
wait, there's multiple?
Yeah. And so it's different variations. She told me the wrong one. But because of that, was on YouTube for a little bit and I saw a bunch of videos and I was like, oh my God, I've never seen anything like this. I didn't know this is what ballet looked like. I really was at just a competition school. We didn't do like this, big pre-professional ballet program or anything like that. So I learned what that was from there. And then from there, I was like, I want to do ballet. Because before that, I was like, I'm going to be on So You Think You Can Dance. And it was really big back then. But
or, you know what I call So You Think My wife watches that show.
SYTYCD?
I call it Dukka Dukka. I call it Dukka Dukka. Now I have to explain it.
You have to explain.
So they have this little musical piece and it goes, Dukka 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 Dance.
Oh, yes.
And so I just, whenever she's watching it, that sound, because they do it like in between commercials coming back and stuff like that. And Dukka 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 Dance.
Wow, that brought me back.
It's so,
oh my God.
Every time my wife has it on, I'm like, oh, you watching Dukka Dukka?
Oh, that's hilarious.
Because it's just a sound that I identify.
I forgot all about that. Wow.
Sorry.
No, that's great. Oh my gosh.
We actually went and saw like the tour. Like we went to like Charlotte or something like that to see it live at one point. Yeah. She loves that show. My wife loves that show. Mm-hmm. And I only ever started to take an interest in dance because of my wife. Like we went to see a tap show in New York. This is years ago.
That's awesome.
But it was who's Savion Glover.
Mm-hmm.
And at the last
second, I took a workshop
second,
from him one time.
Yeah, at the last second though, he dropped out. So he didn't actually dance at this performance, but he had like his proteges dancing and they were like, according to my wife, they were even better. Like they were they were so good. But the whole time we're watching it, in front of us is Tony Danza. Because he's a big dance fanatic.
What? That's cool.
Tony Danza. He's not professional dancer, but he's so into professional dance. Like he dances and he like is a huge fan, which I learned that night because I was like, hey, it's Tony Danza. Yeah, who the boss? This guy.
My gosh. Yeah. That's amazing.
So that was my introduction to like witnessing it live in that kind of thing because my wife is a fan. Mm-hmm. And then when I moved here and I see you guys and I see you guys performing in like crazy places, in crazy spaces, in someone's house, in a parking lot, whatever, doing professional. You guys are all professional dancers. So for people who haven't listened to the previous episodes that I've had with other people in Unbound, explain kind of briefly what that is and why it's so special and why I get excited about it.
So most professional ballet companies have a season and it typically goes, it definitely varies and some of them don't, they have multiple seasons throughout the year, but most companies go, I would say like August or September, sometimes October through to like May, June-ish, somewhere around there.
Kind of like
give
mirrors
or take.
The school season.
Exactly. But then when we're not rehearsing or performing, we're in what we call a layoff. So we're just not rehearsing, performing. We're not meeting up. And we are, most dancers, I'm sure, are like dying to work again and dance again.
But is that why most of you guys are dance teachers, yoga teachers? You're doing something else, doing private lessons, that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. Like you guys are making ends meet with your profession. It's just that the performance aspect is not there.
Well, I definitely at this time, just because just the amount that I teach right now, I do make more teaching technically.
Right. But that's not why you got into it.
Right. I think at first I started teaching because I just wanted, I needed more money and I wanted to fill out my time.
Right.
Because, the rehearsal day ends around 3 something, or a little bit earlier. And then I didn't know what to do for the rest of my day. So I started just kind of as work and then I fell in love with it. And I always thought I would be a dance teacher. My whole story when I was a kid, I was like, I'm going to go on So You Think You Can Dance. And then I'm going to be a cool dance teacher and I'm going to own a studio. I don't know. That was just my dream because I didn't really know that you could be a real a ballet dancer.
Is that what you were exposed? Well, not the So You Think You Dance part, but all of your teachers as a kid, they were all probably current or former professional ballerinas or dancers in some aspect. Right?
Yeah. And so I just didn't know. I learned a lot of the stuff that I know about dance on my own. And I'm not saying that because my teachers didn't teach me. It's just that like, I don't know if I was oblivious or or maybe I just missed or something. Like it just wasn't really talked about a ton.
It wasn't sinking in.
Yeah. And I just, I did a lot. I mean, like I turned into this bunhead and I researched a ton and, I hadn't seen a real professional ballet performance until I was on a field trip in high school. Okay, we're going back to my story a little bit.
That's okay. But listen, it's a podcast. It's a conversation. True. We don't have to worry about being linear. Just jump around. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, I do want to get back around to talking about Unbound though.
Yes, no, we'll get there.
So 8th grade, I had an option to go to a local arts high school. At the time, we had moved to Florida. Mm-hmm. We were living in Florida. I'm from Baltimore, Maryland.
Baltimore. And, you said it properly.
I know. That's how you can tell. Baltimore. Or Balmer. But yeah, but we still had our house in Maryland. So my mom said, my brother was getting ready for college. And so my mom was like, there's an arts high school here in Florida that you can go to, or there's a really fantastic one in Maryland, like in Baltimore City. So I was like, okay, well, I don't really know. Like I didn't know anything about it, but my mom sent in my information without me knowing. Like I didn't really know. And then they gave me an audition, and I auditioned and I got in. And this school is unbelievable. I could talk about it for days and days. It is the most uplifting, safe environment for artists. It's the most fantastic place I've ever been. But anyway, so I went there for high school. I was very, very lucky to be there. And I still think about that every day. It changed my life for sure. But we would I think we had a field trip one time to go to Philadelphia, and we saw Pennsylvania Ballet do a school show where, a bunch of schools come. And looking back now as a professional, they're not the most serious shows for the dancers because a lot of times it's like the next step after a dress rehearsal, or it counts as a dress rehearsal, and then you do the real shows later. But I think they're very cool because sometimes you can hear the kids in the audience like laughing and giggling or, wow, all that stuff. So I saw, that was the first performance I'd ever seen by a professional company ever. And that was, I think I was like a sophomore in high school. And before high school, I didn't even know summer intensives existed. I didn't know people danced over the summer. I thought you just stopped and then you just came back in August and you were like, you had to make up for all the technique you had lost and strength you had lost. So I found out that is not the case.
Oh, yeah.
You do have to keep up with it. But then, and then I think this was I always get this wrong, but I'm pretty sure this was the summer before my junior year of high school. I went to the Pittsburgh Ballet Theater summer intensive. And then when I was there, they offered me a place in their graduate program early. And it's for, after high school. But yeah. I told them where I was going to high school and they said, oh, that's a good school. You should stay there. And so they said, complete your last year of high school and then we'll see you after. You don't have to audition or anything. So I was very lucky.
That's unbelievable.
I was super lucky. I guess because it's the Baltimore School for the Arts is where I went to high school. And I think the person that offered me the spot had heard about it or had other dancers from that school. Yeah.
Wow.
So they wanted me to complete my high school time there. And then, so after high school, I moved to Pittsburgh and I danced there for 4 years. And I was very lucky to have been there earlier and to be there while I was in high school because I definitely needed kind of a quick espresso shot of ballet, professional ballet, and what that looked like. You learn a lot just being immersed in that.
Watching on YouTube is not...
you see the performance, but you don't see a rehearsal or what that looks like. And you learn a lot about respect and, because the graduate program are basically, it's a bunch of trainees and out of a group of like 70, 80 plus dancers in that program, 10 get chosen to do company work.
Wow.
And I was really lucky. I got chosen to do it. And there were definitely dancers better than I was that didn't get picked. And it was just, it's just luck. I mean, I was lucky for sure.
Did you ever find out what it was they were looking for that put you apart from the people that might have been technically more advanced?
I don't know. I mean,
it could have been an attitude thing. It could have been
maybe.
just
a lot of it was like body type.
I was going to say, does it come down to like things that are really out of your control?
Absolutely. It really does. Like,
we need somebody with black hair. Like what?
Well, yeah, it definitely depends. And this is kind of trailing off again.
That's okay.
But while I was there in Pittsburgh, I was, I had meetings and I was saying, okay, well, I want to audition for company positions. And like, so what should I do? And they would literally tell me certain companies not to audition for because I just wasn't pale enough. Or like, I wasn't blonde or, it was,
they weren't looking for your body type.
Yeah, exactly. So that is honestly a factor. It is, I hope becoming a little bit less of a factor, and when other people talk about these companies, they go, oh yeah, no, you definitely don't audition for that company. Like they like the blonde skinny girls. That's like a big thing. So.
I can definitely think with Unbound, it is a diverse group of people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that's kind of cool that yes, there are places for anyone who is just good enough technically.
Mm-hmm. So
that's a weird thing
and that's not everywhere. And there are lots of companies that I'm sure don't. I mean, there are lots of companies that I know don't really care about that. Height is a factor for sure because for multiple reasons. One, they need to be, you need to be able to be partnered. A lot of people like to make it look uniform, but I mean, there are a bunch of different things, and like, I don't know, I just luck of the draw. I was picked to do that, which I was lucky because it, made my repertoire, my resume pretty full.
Gave you that kind of little extra boost.
Yeah, but you learn a lot in those company rehearsals, especially as a student, because those company dancers are not going to, be easy with you because they're working. That's, you're affecting them.
So that's the respect part. Like if you don't hold up your end, the whole, you don't want to bring a whole show down. You don't want the person, you don't want to be the person to like, yeah, the show is good, except for that one person who kept like tripping over their feet.
Yeah, no. And you learn like just kind of there is a hierarchy, that there, especially in a ranked company. Palmetto City Ballet and Unbound are not ranked, but Pittsburgh was, or is, I should say. And,
so it's almost
you never want to take somebody's bar spot. Yeah.
So you're ranked, like the companies get ranked like college sports.
Mm-hmm. So there's like so trainee, apprentice, corps de ballet, soloist, principal, and principal's the highest. And within that, some companies even have like first soloist, second soloist, or,
Wow. So there's kind of like the lead singer.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The lead dancer.
Yeah.
The front person of the crew, of the troupe, or what company. Sorry.
Yeah,
There's
company.
the word. I'm learning. I swear some of it's sticking. I'm getting glared at by Crystal in my mind.
Oh, no.
I've told you that before.
Yeah. I mean, we say company just because it is a company.
Yeah.
It's a place of work.
I love the whole dance ecosystem of like, it's such a commitment. I was actually telling one of the people that work in the building where my studio is earlier when I was setting up. He's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Setting up for a podcast." And I tried to explain like, the dance thing is one of the most intense art forms I can think of. Simply because you've got to be dedicated from such a young age. Mm-hmm. And for the ones that make it to your age, which is not old, but in dance, in dance years, you can't get to where you are now without starting from scratch at a young age, and sticking with it and being, like you said, a bunhead, being such a nerd about it that you're so into it that you're willing to sacrifice everything in life that the rest of us regular folk might experience because you love it that much. And it's such a dedication, and it shows, and it's when you think about it in those terms, it makes it so much more important. So I love that you guys have these things. Like you give it like an epic name, like company, because it is a company and you guys are doing epic stuff. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well,
like, so I get it. And I enjoy the whole thing. I love that you guys all have this term called bunhead. And I feel like it's a word. If I called you a bunhead, it would be offensive.
Oh, no way. No, not for me personally. I'm like, you are absolutely right. There is nothing wrong
says it, it's okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a ballet nerd who knows about all the ballets, and
I don't know. I feel like it's like in Harry Potter. If you call a non-magic person a muggle, and you're, it could be offensive. But if you are a muggle and you call someone a muggle, you're like, whatever.
I have heard some people refer to people who, like some dancers refer to people who aren't dancers as muggles.
Yeah.
Just because it's a whole different like world sometimes it feels like. I mean,
I can't fathom it.
Yeah.
I can't fathom that kind of, because that type of motivation that you have, I possess it in like other things, but nothing I have ever been obsessed with has carried through my entire life, like to that degree. Mm-hmm. Like I'll get obsessed with when I learned how to play guitar. When you're talking about when you were a young teenager getting into ballet and you're spending 8 hours watching YouTube. No, there was no YouTube when I learned how to play guitar, but I sat there with guitar magazines and learned every song I could learn how to play, like, and I would try to listen by ear, and I would spend 8 hours a day as a teenager playing guitar. But of course, now I don't do that.
See, I'm jealous, actually.
But that's the thing. I
wish I had done that for other things too.
Yeah, but
because now it's not that I feel like I'm just a dancer.
No,
but I would love to know how to do other things. I mean, I took piano for like 7 years, but
yeah,
I mean,
but it's the same kind of dedication you'd have to put in. You'd have to be so into it that you're willing to put in all that time to get proficient at it.
I never felt like I was losing out, though. Like, I never felt like I missed my childhood. My parents would always say that. They're like, oh, like, you need to be a kid sometimes. I'm like, what are you talking about? I am so happy. I'm where I want to be. I'm working towards something I really, really, really want. Yeah. And I never felt like I was missing out ever. And I think that also helped because I went to an arts high school. Mm-hmm. And I'll never forget this. One time we had, I had the SATs in the morning and a performance in the afternoon. And I'll never forget how arts high school-esque that was. It was so funny to me. But I never felt like I missed anything. I mean, there weren't any really dances for me to miss. I mean, the only thing we had, it was such a small school, the only thing we had was prom. Wow. And it was a combined junior and senior prom, and that was it. I mean, were 400 kids, I think, in the whole school. Mm-hmm. And I think I graduated with like 40 people.
Yeah.
So it was really, really small. I never felt like I missed out. All of my friends were there. We spent all of our time there. So, I mean,
it probably helped you in that small environment.
Mm-hmm. If I were in a bigger high school and like where there were people that did other things, I'm sure I would have been like, oh man, I want to go. I want to go get ice cream with you guys,
But in that environment, your obsession with dance probably saved you socially, because what happens in those small schools is by the time you get to your senior year, some of those relationships are strained, and you're kind of like up each other's butt for 4 years, and you're in small classes with the same people, and so it's very easy to like get on each other's nerves. But you were so obsessed. There was a girl when I went to a small high school as well, nice. And there was a girl who was she was, I shouldn't say professional. I guess she was a professional ice skater.
Cool.
Same kind of regimen as a professional dancer. Mm-hmm. She woke up at like 5 o'clock every morning and went to the ice skating rink.
Hardcore.
And then after school she skated. And then so it was like skating, school, skating, homework, sleep. Mm-hmm. That was her life for the whole time. And so I think we hung out with her socially outside of school maybe twice in 4 years. And it was just because we were coming over there to study or work on a school project. So we'd go to her house and work on the project. And that was the only time I'd ever even seen this girl outside of school.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
And yeah. And so, but the thing is, no one ever hated that girl. Everyone liked that girl. No one really truly knew her because she was so busy. She never had a chance to like get on everyone's nerves or let anyone else get on her nerves. Mm-hmm. So in a small environment, doing something that dedicated is perfect.
Yeah.
Because I can't imagine you probably had a lot of arch enemies in high school.
Yeah. I mean,
who has time for it?
No, I mean, we were all so, I think it was a hard school. Like we all bonded on like how hard that class was or how scary that teacher is or whatever. Yeah. But I don't know. Honestly, I relied upon my classmates quite a bit to help me branch out a lot and get braver and stuff. So I felt like I was always learning and trying to like take little things from people because I was very shy, like so shy. Freshman and sophomore year of high school. Junior year, I started to come out of my shell. And that was purely because the people around me were so outgoing and so fun and welcoming. It was so cool. Like I would just sit down in the cafeteria, which was in the basement. It used to be a hotel, so it's like really tall.
Art schools are always in the best place.
I know.
Like,
so, yeah. But I used to sit down and then every once in a while, like some random person would come up and be like, hey, I'm blah, blah, blah. And I'd be like, hello, I am Natasha and I'm scared, but I would like to be friends, you know? But then by senior year, I had definitely like exploded. I feel like I was so loud and I had definitely found my energy.
Wow.
My outward energy by then. But that was definitely because all of the people around me were so inviting and colorful and exciting. And I just wanted to soak in so much because prior to that, I had just been to like a kind of a regular middle school and I was very nerdy and nobody really, I had friends in each group, but I was never like.
Yeah. It wasn't your focus to be like socially like at the top of the.
Well, I wanted to be cool.
You did?
Yeah, a little, just because, you know, I always felt like I would crack jokes at home, like to my brother or my family, and they would laugh. But then I was always so shy at school, like I never wanted to say anything. But I noticed the popular girls were very funny. Like people laughed at them all the time. So I was like, oh, maybe I'll start cracking jokes.
Did you? Okay.
In real life.
Now, let me ask you a question. The popular girls then now in hindsight, were they just jerks or were they genuinely funny or were they being funny at someone else's expense?
One girl I think of in particular was very nice. Everyone just loved her. She was so sweet, so beautiful. And I just remember her being just awesome.
Yeah.
I also danced with her. So we had a little bit of like, you know, I knew her a little bit more maybe. So maybe I don't know if I got a different experience, but she was always very nice to me.
That's
so
awesome.
I never thought twice. But I mean, of course, they're always like, you know, the mean popular girls.
I just remember in like middle school, because I think that's the age where you become aware of all of that social hierarchy in school. And I remember trying to like fit in with what I thought were the cool kids. But I just, after maybe like, I don't know if it was a summer or a school year or whatever it was, a period of time of trying to like dress like them and hang out with them and talk to them and blah, blah, blah. I was just like, I don't like these people.
I mean, sometimes that happens.
And then once I let go of that, like life became easier. Like once you don't care about being popular, it became so much easier. But I don't know how to teach that to like my own kids. Like how do you teach them? Like, don't care, but they don't. They just inherently don't care about impressing other people in that way. So I'm happy for them because I didn't have anything to do with that. I didn't have to teach them that.
That's something I feel like I'm learning now. Yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, it's extremely important to understand like that's all meaningless, especially at that age. It's better to be like that person that you danced with that you thought was popular because she was nice. Like that's the person you want to aspire to be, not the people taking other people down.
Yeah, no way. And I never try to do that. But I am learning how to just like make decisions and that's what it's going to be. And if other people don't like that, then that's okay. They don't have to. But this is, you know, I'm learning to kind of have my own thoughts now.
Yeah.
You know, and it's taken a little bit because I think I just got so fed up with being anxious about what other people were going to think. Like that anxiety was just not something I could keep up with. So I was like, you know what, why don't I just stick with something? And if it works out, it works out. If it was, you know, if it's meant to be, it's meant to be. If not, then it wasn't meant to be.
Well, in your art form, there's a lot of room for mistakes that I would imagine, build character, because you're going to make a mistake.
Yeah.
You're performing. Things go wrong.
All the time.
You know, you're going to have either your body's going to just say, screw you, I'm not doing this right now. Or there's a malfunction of like, I don't know, your wardrobe of some sort, like a shoe falls off or breaks.
Yeah.
Whatever it is. So that must help you build a character through that of like moving past those things and understanding like, hey, the big picture is like, that's not, no one's going to focus in on that one little mistake.
Right.
And you know,
I do have to remind myself of that. Like if something goes wrong, like it always feels way bigger than it is on stage. Like if you like stumble out of a step, you feel like it looked like you rolled across the floor, but really it was like a little hop. And I'm sure no one would think twice about it, but you're like freaking out over it. But I've had to try to tell myself like, they're not thinking about it. Just move along and keep going and do your best. Things happen all the time. It's live theater. And
you know, it's funny though too. The people who see it some people see those mistakes too, and some people don't. Because there was, you guys just did, what was it? The circus?
Carnival of the Animals.
Carnival.
Yeah.
Yes. And I went to one of those performances. I brought my wife. And there was somebody, I guess, fell at one point during the performance.
Oh, yes. Who was
and but my wife goes, oh my gosh, she fell. And I said, who? What? Yeah. I'm sitting here watching. I didn't even notice someone falling. Like she fell. So to me, it didn't look like a mistake because I'm not a dancer. To me, it looked just as graceful as anything else.
I remember somebody
But my wife's like, no, she fell.
Yeah, well,
like, okay.
Well, that was good. They got right up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that was a cool show.
But that's what I'm saying. Like for the most part, but at the end of the day, you don't. It's not like we walked away like, you know what, the show could have been an awesome. Except that one person made a mistake, and damn this whole performance. Like nobody thinks that. You know what I'm saying? Like
exactly.
I didn't remember it till you brought it. We just started talking about that, but the perception that I had was nothing bad happened.
Yeah. And that's what we say. That's why it's so important when you fall to get up as soon as possible and don't let your face change in any way. Or even if you like forget choreography, it's very important to just keep your face cool, calm, and collected because, you know, 9 times out of 10, a lot of people did not see that happen. But because it feels bigger to you, you're going to want to act like it did happen. You're like, oh my gosh, I just fell or whatever happened. But you have to just kind of stay cool because something like that would happen. And maybe one person will see, but 4 others won't.
I mean,
and if you show it on your face, someone will be like, one of those 4 people will be like, oh, well, something must have happened.
Lots of musicians, like bands, whenever someone makes a mistake in the band, if you ever, next time you watch a band live, see if you can pick up on this.
Okay.
You'll see the members of the band. Sometimes they'll look over at each other and smile at each other because one person will know that the other person screwed up. And so they're just kind of like teasing them a little bit. And it's funny because you'll see it happen. You're like, I didn't even hear a problem. But I know what that look is. I know the look. I know the, haha, you screwed up. You hit a wrong note or you missed a beat or something. And so I imagine you can't do that dance at all. You can't egg each other on.
Not so much. Off stage, of course. You know, check in with a person if they fell. But on stage, I mean, whenever I've done like a quarter ballet role or something, you know, you can kind of throw little glances because maybe they're, you're not being looked at right in that moment. So you can kind of say, hey, I saw that. But yeah.
I enjoy all of that aspect. Now, what are some of the other things in your life? You mentioned earlier that you wish you had other things you've been obsessed with. And you mentioned that you played piano, but it sounds like it was just something you did. You did not because you were obsessed with it. What are some of the other like sparks that you have in your head that you're going like, one day I'm going to do this, or I really want to know more about this? Are there any of those that you have currently?
Yeah. I mean, this is just small. I mean, I don't know if I would do anything with this, but I like to bake a lot.
So let me guess, you're watching the Great British Baking
Show. It's the Bake Off in England. They call it the Bake Off in England, but in America, baking show. So I love baking.
I feel like you and my wife would become very easy friends because she loves that show.
That's awesome. But yeah, and then so I always had this, once I found out that going to ballet right after high school was potentially going to be an option for me. You know, some people take the college route. Other people want to get right into a company as soon as possible because a lot of companies like you as young as possible so they can mold you.
Right.
So I knew I wanted to work with a company as soon as possible. Once I found that would happen, I still applied to colleges and I did defer from one for a year just in case like it didn't work out in Pittsburgh. But I've always known that I would go back to college. So eventually, and I was getting ready to start college back up right before COVID hit. And I was like, I should save all this money. Yeah. So I put a little pause on that, but eventually it would be fully online for me right now since I'm working so much. But I do want to look into some psychology maybe. I've always been interested in that.
So
and like persuasive messaging and, you know, what makes someone interested.
I would say
in something.
If you wanted to be practical, because I think psychology is important and it's the most interesting. There's a certain age, especially college age, like when you take your first psychology class, you're like, this is amazing. This is, I'm so obsessed with this, right?
Yeah.
But I'll tell you from my college years, the classes that I still lean on to this day were business ones. Sounds boring. They are boring. They're extremely like dry, but you're probably going to be, you might open up your own studio one day.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That's kind of a trajectory that you might go down. So if you think of that, definitely take some business classes while you're in school.
Yeah. So I actually go back and forth between saying business and psychology. Yeah. I think like maybe if I have the opportunity, I would try to go for both. I've always gone, because what I'm really interested in is things like, I like working with people, so psychology is very cool, but like persuasive messaging and in advertisement and in like what makes people subconsciously kind of draw towards things. And like, because, you know, how does your brain work? And, you know, I think stuff like that is cool. So that for some reason, even when I was really little, I thought was cool.
It's fascinating.
Yeah. Like I remember I would tell my mom, like, Mom, they made this look like this in this commercial because people will think it looks like this. And she's like, you're 7. Why are you telling me this? But
I mean, just the form of advertising of like billboards. Like I don't know if you've ever listened to like true, like kind of like street artists, like graffiti artists who, you know, they have a very interesting message to me I take in personally, because you didn't get to choose the billboards around you. Like someone paid and they're in your space. And even if you're not looking at them, even if you're just peripheral, like as you're driving by, pulling them in, you're still getting programmed by them.
That's true.
You're getting messages sent to you that you didn't ask for, right? So street artists will say, you know what? We're going to do the same thing, except we're just going to put art like that we want to put out there. And that's going to be, you know, we didn't ask for that. And these people didn't ask for this, but you know what?
But at least this is prettier.
We're going to take it back. So I kind of like that mentality of understanding the amount of inputs that we take in that we don't get a choice in, you know? I don't know how you've been dealing with this pandemic emotionally. As a young person, as a dancer, you guys didn't get to perform in the same capacity when I went to see you guys at the Satilli Theater. It was fantastic for me. I mean, I had a whole road to myself. It was fantastic, but I can't imagine that anyone's making a decent amount of money off of it because it's limited sales. They can only put so many people in the seats. And that was like better than it was a few months before that where you couldn't do anything. It was like, oh, you want to do a Zoom performance?
I know. Oh my gosh. So
how have you been dealing with that? Because there's so much of that I'm in tune with now of positive and negative inputs because of the level of anxiety from everything we've all just gone through and the way it's manifesting itself. And I'm trying to like custom tailor my life experience so that I can have more positive inputs, like sitting here talking to you. It makes me it lifts up my spirit, you know? And whereas turning on the news at night brings me right back down. So I just stop turning on the news. how have you been dealing with this anxiety, if you have at all, if it's manifested in any way? How have you been dealing with this whole experience that we're still going through it? The world is still going through it. We just feel like we're getting over it because we have so many vaccines available to people.
Yeah. Well, to be honest, in the beginning, I was totally fine with staying in my room. I'm definitely a little bit of an introvert there. I would say I'm a loud introvert, extroverted introvert. Is that what they say?
Yeah.
So I had no problem just chilling out in my room. That was fun for me.
Really?
Yeah.
You're like, there's a lot of YouTube videos I got to catch up
on. Oh gosh. No, I mean, I was definitely really upset that we couldn't dance. I mean, we were put on lockdown the week of a show week.
Yeah.
So we were going full speed ahead for a mixed bill performance, and then it's just cut. So that definitely was hard, but I just knew it wasn't personal. So I don't have any need to be sad.
Right.
About it. I mean, of course I was, but I would just tell myself, it's okay. We'll get back to it eventually. But I mean, there were anxieties it's scary. You don't want to, many people are getting sick but I kind of just tried to stay on that mindset of it'll come back. Maybe it'll look a little bit different for now, but eventually one day, it'll be back. And then, so that was kind of my way to pull through. And it was, if I had not been able to teach via Zoom in my bedroom, I don't know. I mean, I would have been just tough. But having that kind of commitment of seeing those students every day, I told them at the time, they saved me for sure. I mean, they were so wonderful and patient.
You're like, I should be paying y'all.
They were so lovely. And most of them were there every single class.
Yeah.
And just, I could tell when they weren't really feeling up for it, but they were there. We all worked together and got through it. So that helped me a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you had anything pop up in the last few months as people are rushing to get back, especially in the last couple of months, trying to get back to normal? I feel like, all right, this is I'm going through right now a sports injury. I'm a runner. I love to run. And the last half marathon I did a couple of weeks ago, I don't know if it's sprained because I'm an idiot and I didn't go to the doctor. I'm just like, it hurts. I'm just not going to run.
Oh no.
But it doesn't hurt enough not to walk at this point. But I've got an ankle brace on and I haven't been able to run for the last 2.5 weeks since that race.
No.
And, but the depressing part to me, this is where I'm going with this, is that when it heals and I got to start running again, I kind of have to start from the beginning almost. I might have the knowledge in my head of what to do, but physically my body's going to be reset. And so now the thinking about that is kind of depressing, right? Of starting from the beginning.
Because you just want to get right back.
Yeah. You just trained for the whole season and now you're like, oh. And what I feel like what's going on I don't know if it's the same. It seems like it's similar for a lot of people. But we've had this weird change in the way we do everything for the last year and so many months. And now it's like, let's get back to normal. Bam. It's like, whoa. We got to learn to crawl before we walk and then run again. We can't just go back to running a marathon.
Yeah, that's so true.
And I feel like we've been thrown into that, and I've been so burnt out on all the things I do that it's definitely making me try to figure out ways to cope with it. Have you had any experience like that where getting back to normal, you're excited about it, but then all of a sudden it manifests in other ways that you're maybe irritable or maybe you just don't feel right?
Yeah, I mean, it gets so frustrating. I mean, when you've been talking about this for a little bit now, and I instantly thought of coming back from an injury because you were talking about your injury. But I have found in the past, I didn't get injured very much as a student. I've had a few injuries, like a broken bone in my foot. I just had some broken ribs and all this stuff. And I have a little thing on my right ankle now that's bothering me. But
there's always some little
just look at his shoulder. Yeah, I could go on.
Yeah.
No, but I always, like, especially from that broken foot, I was down for a while there. And I just wanted to get back to it because I'd missed a production and that really stunk. So I was like, I wanted to prove that I was still in it and I wasn't, totally down for the count for the season. I wanted to make sure that I could still work at full capacity by the time we were performing that first show that I was able to do back. And so I think I just went a little bit too hard in the beginning and try to just, fling my legs up and get back to normal. And I thought it would be fine because it didn't have anything to do with that broken bone in my foot. So, but it just reminded me, now I know I have to slow down. I have to, take baby steps because it's just not worth it. I would rather take a little bit longer to get back to full capacity and go through each little
then
phase, risk another worse injury. And that's kind of where,
I feel like the world is there.
Yeah. So that's why I personally have not had an issue with, if I take out the financial factor, if just the idea of being on lockdown, like that I never had an issue with that because I was like, I would rather get this pandemic over with. So, and it'll take a lot longer if we're all out partying, like,
right. And we saw it. The example was made, you look at New Zealand or Australia and you're like, okay, so if we had taken it seriously, we could have been back to normal within a month or two instead of a year.
Yeah. We never know what could have happened.
Well, no, it's hard to say. But we have a much larger population, obviously.
Absolutely.
It's a lot harder to cull the kittens of of the United States. Yeah.
So, but yeah, I haven't had it personally, and I feel, I don't know how I guess it's good in a way that I never like stressed over it too much. Of course I miss my family and everything, but I was just like, we just need to do this for, have a little bit of compassion for people and just, it's okay. We don't need to like have these big gatherings right now. Just kind of let's get this done together so we can go back a little bit sooner maybe than if we were to prolong and, have a bunch of surges again. That's not fun.
Tell me about some of the things you've done outside of pandemic talk and all that stuff. But like throughout your life, have you ever held like regular jobs? Have you worked at like a Starbucks? I'm trying to figure out where do you have the time to do that stuff? But at the same time, it's like, hey, life isn't going to pay for itself.
Yeah. So for a year when I lived in Pittsburgh, my last year there, I worked at a boutique called Francesca's. We have one downtown here too.
Yeah.
I was like a stylist there. So if somebody came in and said, I'm going to a bar mitzvah, I'd be like, well, this is what you should wear. And I would set them up with a whole outfit, clothes, jewelry, shoes, purse. That's my only like normal job that I've ever had. Everything's been around dance.
Well, kind of because if there's a huge fashion aspect to dance, like the costume. Like I feel like when kids get into it, half of them are thrown in there just because the parents of the kids want to have cute pictures of them in their outfits.
100%. And it's funny though, because I grew up definitely being a tomboy. Like I thought dresses were super gross and I didn't like anything. Definitely grew up a tomboy, but anything sparkly, my eyes went straight to. So I don't know. It's weird. But yeah. So I see a lot of that because I teach little ones too. So I teach everywhere from like 3 to adults. Lots of pre-professional teens in the middle there. But I definitely see some parents go like, go in there. And then I take care of their kid for 45 minutes and I don't really see the parents very much, except for at the end of the year show. They're like going goo goo gaga over these children doing nothing on stage because they're like picking their nose. But
they're looking to the side for somebody to tell them what to do next.
Yeah, but my God, that pink bow in their hair is so darling.
Oh, yeah. And in photos, no one knows that they're not doing anything. They just look cute.
They're like arms touching their head, and I don't know. I think it's cute. But
in your time teaching, have you come across like young prodigies, like kids that just like, oh my gosh, I hope this person keeps going?
I think about this all the time, but I mean, there are so many of my students that I look at and I'm like, God, I would have looked up to you for sure as a student. I mean, they are so much better than I mean, I didn't go to a pre-professional school connected to a professional company or anything like that. So, I mean, there are so many students that are just skyrocketing and improving so quickly. And I'm lucky because I teach ballet and jazz. So I get to see them do things that, outside of a ballet bar, and I get to see them really move. And it's been really cool to see who maybe the person that's the best in ballet isn't the best in jazz. And a lot of times it differs there, but there are definitely students that just skyrocket in ballet and or jazz. There are some students that, you can just tell don't really love ballet that much, but when they're in jazz, and I'm sure other classes, but I just know because of my jazz classes, when they're in jazz, they just light up and that's their favorite thing. And, so it's really cool. They would have all blown me out of the water. I would have been.
Well, when you were a kid, like that age, right? Somebody at some point possibly said something to you to confirm that, like, hey, you're on the right path. Like someone complimented you or gave you some sort of insight into what you were doing. Like, do you remember that?
Yeah.
Was there a specific person in mind?
There were two instances. One, my ballet teacher, Miss Nancy, back when I was in middle school, Miss Nancy, yes.
Miss Nancy.
I still talk to her today. She's awesome. But she was kind of like, you can do this. You can go to programs and stuff. Yeah. But then in high school, the dance department director, actually, I think she had a meeting with my parents one time. I think I was a sophomore, junior or something. And she said, I think your daughter's going to do this, but you need to know that you are most likely going to have to support her financially for for years to come, because it takes a while. Like ballet companies don't hire very much right into the court of ballet from high school. They want to see you and they want you to be a little bit more mature these days. So you need to be, she just said basically like, are you going to support her in this choice? And because she can make it. And I didn't know, I wasn't in that meeting, but my mom wasn't supposed to tell me, but she told me.
Oh.
But then I remember the next class I took with the director, she was like totally like giving me such a hard time for she was nitpicking. And I'm looking back, she was just trying to make me better. But I was like, oh my gosh, she actually hates me. I was like, Mom, you didn't tell me the truth. That's not what you said. But, she was just being a good teacher.
Yeah, that's a rough one too, because now she's fixated on helping you get there.
Yeah, and I'm so glad she did.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Now, have you had that conversation with any parents? Like, your kid's talented and you should probably...
Yes, definitely younger. I've seen some, and as a student and not like a studio owner or a director, or not a student, a teacher and not a studio owner or director. I wonder when it is and isn't my place to tell someone, hey, you should go somewhere else. So I have been a little careful about that. I'd never ever want to step on anyone's toes. There have been a couple of times when parents have come to me and said, look, my kid really wants to do this more seriously. Can you recommend somewhere to go for my student? She'd like to do daytime stuff or, things like that. And, and so when that happens, I'll have a serious conversation with them and say, I think, in the past, I'm thinking of one example in particular. I said, I do think that your kid is advanced and should move forward to somewhere where there are other students better than her.
Yeah.
And
where she's not the top fish in the pond, where she's just now another fish in the pond.
Yeah. And so I've definitely had to do that before, but I go
it's
back
sticky,
and forth.
right?
I don't know. I just don't want to. I like all the places that I teach for, and I never want to
drive business away from them.
Yes, absolutely not. But when there's a student that I know wants it, I know if I were that student, I would want someone to tell me, you should find,
or a place that's maybe more suited to whatever it is that they're excelling at.
Yeah, absolutely.
Course. So that's that's not something I would have thought about. Like, oh, you're driving business away, so maybe you don't want to piss off your boss or the owner.
So I've never really brought it up. I mean, maybe I have. I can't remember. But I try to do things respectfully and I never want any sort of beef between anybody. So I just try to, these are my thoughts.
Yeah. Well,
you can listen to them or not, but yeah.
You're talking about possibly steering a child's whole trajectory. Mm-hmm. And so it's such a huge responsibility.
Yeah.
And the reason why I bring it up is because I think most creative people that I talk to on this podcast have somebody in their life that kind of either confirmed or opened the door for them through just words, through a compliment, through encouragement. And so it's a valuable thing that you have this power to basically open the door for somebody. And so, it's a huge responsibility. So I guess there maybe could be a protocol of talking to somebody else before you, or you just say something. But sometimes it's something in passing, something it's like, oh my gosh, you do that so well. Like you do that.
Yes, that'll happen a lot.
You'll give them that thing. And I'm sure you have times in your life where somebody said something and you're like, oh yeah. Wow. Oh, I didn't. Oh, and then you start thinking about it. You start focusing on it, and then you realize, hey, I'm good at this thing that I do.
I've done that much more with students. Like I'll pull them aside after class or something and say, like, look, I think you can focus a little bit more. I think you can, if you really work towards whatever, you can get towards this goal and blah. Or if you have potential and you can do this. Oftentimes that happens and I'm saying, but you got to stop goofing off or, stuff like that. But that's happened way more. I mean, I've only really had, I think like one or two, and one of them was moving away altogether. So they were just that I felt okay with saying because they were moving away. They didn't know where to go. And so I helped steer them in that direction to a different state. But I've only, I think, ever had one person say, hey, I want to stay here in Charleston, but I just think there is a better place for my kid. Do you, what do you think? Do you agree? And I was, that's where that was. But honestly, I do try to encourage my students as much as possible. I just had some teachers that weren't quite as encouraging. Yeah. So, but for me, that pushed me. I was like, I want to get to the point where they say good. Right. But it was more for me, but I want to get to the point where I say good.
So is that a personality trait of yours where that negative reinforcement kind of works more than a positive reinforcement in that regard? Like it gives you like that Michael Jordan mentality of like always having someone to beat?
Yeah, I mean, yes. And honestly, not all the time, but I think that's an honest way of progressing because sometimes if someone compliments me, I'm like, or like my dancing.
You judge them
like
you don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, like, all right. Were you really paying attention or were you just kind of scanning over and you just, I don't know. But, and I'm sure they're being honest or something. I don't know. But when someone is harsh on me, I'm like, okay, well, there's no way they're lying there. Well, it could be, but that would suck.
Yeah. Well.
I just feel like it's less likely that they're, bullshitting me.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, oh. And at least from my perspective, whenever I give a student a correction, it's never because like I want to put them down. It's because I want to put them up.
Right.
I want you to get better and,
You're in the right place in the right time to give them the corrections too. You're teaching them.
True.
That's what they're there for.
True. So, but that other person's in the right place and right time to correct me. So, I don't know. I mean, I've seen some teachers go really hardcore. Like when I was in high school, I had one in particular, like throw a chair across the room and say like, what the hell are you doing? And blah, blah. I was like, it wasn't towards me.
I think that might have been, especially at that age, that would have been my way of dealing with it. Not being able to express yourself or your frustration or even your joy. So you just kind of like explode in some stupid way, like throwing a chair.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and there was another time Petite Allegro is little jumps.
Okay.
In ballet. And we were doing a Petite Allegro combination, and it was from the corner. So we were traveling and we were going in groups of 3. And when you do that, you make like a little triangle shape in the corner and travel like as a pack. And
just skipping along,
just
jumping,
traveling together, like flocking together. And I'll never forget this. That same teacher that threw the chair at the student. I had gone to like wherever I thought was an open spot to stand for the triangle, whatever. And he stops the music. It's live at accompanist. He stops the music. He says, we all know Natasha can't jump, so she should go to the back. And I was like, oh my gosh, and that hurt. But then I went to the back, and honestly, that was really harsh. That wasn't very cool. He was very serious when he said it. It hurt. And my friends in high school, my friends were very nice. They turned around and they were like, don't listen to him. But that made me mad. And so then I wanted to improve my Petite Allegro because I wanted to show him. I think he did it on purpose. I found out later on he liked me as a student. Like he wanted me to succeed. He definitely, I think, did it on purpose because I think he knew that I would get really mad and I would just want to fix it. Now I wouldn't show that I was mad. I would just get like,
but what a gamble to use that kind of psychology on a kid. How do you know that? Maybe he really just understood how you excel.
Yeah. I think he was similar.
I hope. Yeah.
And I just happened to luck out that way. I know that there are students that did not like his way of teaching.
Yeah. Well,
did not like how aggressive he was. But I don't know that he did it intentionally for me because I think he was similar. Like when he was a student, he needed that push. And when he was a professional dancer, he needed somebody to say, that looks like shit.
Yeah. Well, I'm thinking, I'm thinking of,
it's harsh, but
how many kids might like take the exact opposite approach. So like they feel that and they're like, you know what? I don't want to do this because of that.
A lot.
Yeah.
And that's I try to be very mindful of that when I'm teaching because I know that a lot of the people I went to high school with did not enjoy that experience and did not need that in order to improve. So I try to, like, whenever I give a correction, and this isn't like a formula, it's not like I do this, I guess I do it on purpose, but it's not like I'm trying to be fake or anything, but I try to frame it in a way that like, I've seen you do it well before. So let's get it back to that. What do you need to do? And so we'll kind of, it's not that it's conversational, but I do, I make sure that they know that they have the potential to do it. Right.
Yeah. It's
versus just shutting them down and saying, you're never going to do this.
See, this is why this is why psychology is a good fit for you. Because you are thinking about these things. Because I can understand the mentality that somebody might have because they're basing it on their own experience, but we're all different. And you wonder how many master artists, dancers, musicians, whatever, never pursued it because at the right place at the right time, somebody said something wrong.
Oh my gosh. And that's huge in ballet, like humongous.
And just crushed their spirit to the point where they never recovered from it and turned them off.
I hate that happens so much in ballet. It is, just purely with dancing, with your like technique and things like that, or body type is where it gets so just horrible. And, people will say one thing and then you're crushed.
Right.
Especially like when you're like teenager in high school, some teacher will say, you look like you need to eat a little more cabbage and a little less burger. Like I had a Russian teacher that would say that to my class. She would go along and ask us how much we weighed in a line. And we would tell her. And then she would say, you're fine. Or you need to eat more cabbage. That was the thing, is like, eat only cabbage. It's just messed up.
Fill your belly and get nothing in return.
Yeah.
Well,
but
you do get something in return.
So there were so many, I know dancers that I danced with in that school that would, that have talked about it recently that was why. Those conversations messed us up. Wow. And there's been a big dialogue lately in the dance community that if you've ever done ballet, you should be in therapy because that's common practice. Is to be like, if you weren't told, you need to lose weight or you need to strengthen then it doesn't sound like you were in a very professional environment as far as ballet goes. That's what people will say.
Well, and realistically though, and I'm not talking about this from a body type thing, but I'm talking about from a physicality thing. It's impossible to do what you guys do without being in amazing shape as far as flexibility, strength, and endurance, the cardio involved in like these prolonged things. You're, like I said at the beginning, it's like a crazy power yoga class, like the hardest power yoga class you've ever seen done artistically. But it takes so much effort, so much, and the avoiding injury by keeping yourself in a certain condition. These are all things that, yes, your diet does influence. Like if you're eating too much sugar all the time and it's like you're not burning enough calories, and now you're carrying extra, weight, and then you land wrong, it might affect, you might sprain an ankle or whatever. I'm just throwing out generic stuff because I obviously don't know what I'm talking about. But I do see that there's an important aspect to the physicality of dance, especially on a professional level. So yeah, that's a hard one to not be so abrasive about and so, staunch or black and white about like, hey, you need to take care of this vessel because if you don't, you might get injured more or whatever. You won't be able to do the things that you want to be able to do. For you personally, how do you treat your body as far as throughout your life? It's not like you're going out drinking 24/7 or doing any kind of like things that would make it so that you can't do the thing you love to do. What's that kind of, is it second nature to you at this point where you don't even think about it? Do you make sacrifices constantly? Are you battling this? You're like, man, I really wish I could have a cheeseburger right now, but I've got to do X, Y, and Z. And if I do that, then it might, I might have this reaction or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, how is that going for you?
I definitely getting a little personal here, but I did have kind of some eating issues for 13 years.
Wow. And was it tied to dance or was it external?
Definitely. I mean, just looking at yourself in the mirror all day in a little leotard and
every time something changes, you're like, what is that?
And as a kid, glowing. Your body changed. Absolutely. And I definitely, when I grew, right before I grew taller, I gained a lot of weight and I got like a little bit, in my opinion, I was like, oh, I'm so chubby.
Right.
And then I'd grow taller and stretch out a little bit.
Your body was, your body was carb loading.
I know.
Because it knew it was about to take off.
It was, but that I think kind of messed me up a little bit. And then I saw those videos of all those dancers who were teeny tiny, in Russia.
I mean, some of the people that you dance, because at Palmetto City, I mean, there's pretty diverse group of body types in there.
Yeah, I would say so.
And some of those girls are like impossibly tiny, and then some girls look extremely like normal, if that's even a word. It's like
healthy.
Well, I don't
no, because
healthy for
I don't
want to
say that either, because the people who are thin, they look healthy too. It's
and they might be healthy for their body type.
Yeah.
So but you have this diverse range of people like
of natural body types.
Yeah. But all of you, I imagine, are doing to your body type. You've got a regimen of like what you eat or exercise or how you maintain your physicality, because it's a sport as much as it is an art form, in my opinion, as far as the physical output. Yeah,
I always say it's an athletic art form, because sport is, if you're in a ballet competition, I would say it's a sport.
Yeah.
But since we're not competing, it's I always say an athletic art form, which is kind of pretentious, I guess. I don't know. But so I mean, it's just way too much of a workload to not eat enough. And so it took me a while to understand that.
Yeah.
I mean, it was after high school when I realized. And so you just
struggle to eat enough is the problem, because you're so busy.
Well, no, I mean, I used to like not eat enough.
Okay.
But now it's just, you just have to eat as healthy as you can. I mean, in that, I mean, also eat your sweets and eat your treats, because that, keeps you sane. You go nuts if you're focusing on it constantly. You just can't support that. So, eat healthy, eat your cheeseburgers too, and your ice cream when you want to treat. The workload is heavy enough to where, you'll be able to work just fine. I mean, it's tough. I never, when I was younger, I would just say I have to eat less and less and less calories.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, that's what you think growing up in ballet is just, you just have to eat less. You have to look like all skin and bones, But then I realized that it was just driving me nuts and I couldn't do it anymore. Like I couldn't function that way.
I see, sometimes I'll go on Reddit and I'll see every once in a while someone will post a picture of like their weight loss journey and they'll do like a before and after. And to me, I'm like, they look the same. Mm-hmm. Or it'll be not weight loss, it'll be weight gain because it'll go both ways. And you'll sit there and be like, so much of it is what you perceive about yourself, like Absolutely. That you see it and know it. It's like the mistakes in dance. To most people, they're like,
I didn't even see it.
Well, what? Wait, you're upset because you think you're overweight? Like what? But I get it. It's in your head. You're staring at yourself all day long, and you're very much. You know how you feel. You know. How, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And it's just, one. And you just feel like everyone. I mean, oh gosh. I mean, when you're in a tiny leotard, like one year my uniform was a white leotard that shows like everything. Mm-hmm. And I just remember that was tough. And not because it was a white leotard all of a sudden, but just because, you just become so aware of every little difference. And I used to look and, just get so hung up on it. And then I realized I just couldn't do it anymore. And it was just, I just wasn't eating enough. I was not treating myself enough. I think it's really important to have your sweet.
Gotta have your cheat days.
Cheat days.
Yeah.
I mean, I try not to have a cheat day. I do like a cheat every day.
Yeah, but
otherwise I go crazy. You have to eat your little snackies.
Well, let me ask you, this is such a random question. So when I first started running marathons, which wasn't that long ago, it was a few years ago that I ran my first marathon. And the first couple of marathons I ran, by the end of the marathon, my legs were so cramped up and all this stuff. And I was like, what the hell is going on? Like they were depleted of like the sugars, like my body used all the things and now you start burning fat and all that kind of stuff. But then I was like, oh, you got to have nutrition while you're running. That's why runners have gels. Do you guys ever use that? You ever take like a runner's gel for a big performance so that you can like make sure that you have enough like fuel for your muscles?
There are sometimes, and it's not, I try to make sure that I feel physically ready for the show before the show. I mean, I'll if I feel like I need to up my stamina, I'll try to like, I'll step aside, find an empty studio or something, or even just mark it in my room, but I'll try to do it multiple times in a row so that I know I can do at least double that.
Yeah.
So I'll try to make sure that my stamina is there, but sometimes in a performance, I mean, your adrenaline definitely kicks in and helps you a ton. Yeah. But, if you've done it 2, 3 times, 4 times that weekend and you need to do it again, you need some help. So, I don't think this is the right way to do it because it's like simple sugars or whatever, or not, I don't know. But I'll just like eat a little bit of candy.
Yeah, well, that's the same
thing. Or
Gatorade,
just something to kind of.
In running, you'll see on like the little aid stations, depending on the type of race it is, you'll see candy.
Oh, okay.
And fruit and things like that. But the problem is for a lot of people doing that running and then trying to digest even like a banana, which is easy, but might give them an upset stomach because
it's
the it's jostling tough. And all that stuff. And I only bring that up because I'm wondering if there's like, that was something like I just didn't think of, I didn't realize until I needed it because the adrenaline will carry you so far, but
absolutely
eventually your muscles will run out of
that's gas, I mean when we did Carnival of the Animals just recently, that was my first real like principal role. I mean, I've done things like the Fairy Godmother and Cinderella, and I've done principal roles in productions when I was a graduate program student. So like it was a little smaller scale. It wasn't with a full professional company, but this was my first ever like leading lady part.
Right.
And it was,
and you were in.
I was on stage for most of the time. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so luckily it wasn't that long of a ballet, but there was no intermission.
Right.
So you just had to kind of power through and there were very few times that I left the stage and we were masked. And those masks, honestly, dancing in masks for me personally isn't a problem, especially if it's one of those paper masks. Yeah. But the ones we had to wear for the shows were tough. They would like suck into your mouth.
Yes, I noticed that.
Yeah, so it would be a little tough.
Because towards the end, you could see it was like balloons on people's faces because you guys were breathing heavier.
Yeah, and it stunk. But yeah, so. I don't even know where I'm going with this, but
well, we were talking about like endurance and
endurance.
making through performances, especially in a lead role.
Yeah. So when we started rehearsals for that, I wore my paper mask just to like get through it. Yeah. And then when I was confirmed, we would be using those nude colored
fabric masks.
I was like, okay, well, I need to train for that. So I started making sure that I wore them in the studio because I knew I wouldn't, and I tried not to pull it down, even if we were just kind of doing an easy run of the show, like in the studio, because I wanted to make sure that I could do it, because I can't pull it down on stage.
No.
So.
Yeah. I mean, I was curious about the mask thing at that performance simply because I was like, well, the audience is far away. I imagine you guys are pretty much like in confined spaces amongst each other all the time. And I'm like, is that a political move just to say, hey, this is where we're at right now and this is what we need to do? Or was it like, are there people on the company that can't get vaccinated for whatever reason? So you need to protect those people?
Well, so I think it was a little bit of,
and when I say political, I don't mean like Republican, Democrat. Totally. I mean like just doing the right thing because this is the time we're in.
I think if my director had a choice, he would have had us not wear masks. Like you said, we're all very close. I have, my roommate is Sarah. She's in the company as well. I mean, we're all very close, and vaccinated, but the theater is owned by the College of Charleston, and that's College policy. Of Charleston's rule. Yeah. Wow. So we had to, other theaters, like I did, I filmed this little dance thing for the American Lung Association. They had a lip sync battle, and I was asked to dance in that, and that was filmed at the music hall.
Yeah.
And we didn't have to wear masks. We did get tested, but I don't know if that was because the theater asked us to, or if somebody on American Lung Association's, and I'm not sure. But we did not have to wear masks for that.
It's such
I think it is just the theater just had us wear.
I wonder how it's going to go forward now that they've changed the recommendations.
Yeah, I don't know.
As of now, you can be maskless. I mean, I went to the grocery store maskless for the first time over the weekend. And I'll tell you what, it was weird. It was weird. Yeah. It was like, okay, I'm going. They had the sign up, if you're vaccinated, you don't have to wear a mask. I'm like, okay, I'm going to take my mask off. I'm not going to put the mask on. I'm going to go in here. And then I felt really weird because most of the people were still wearing their mask. And I didn't know if it was because they just weren't ready.
Yeah.
Or if they weren't vaccinated or what. But I was like, oh, now I'm like the outcast. Yeah. Now I'm like, uh-oh.
So I've been thinking about that. I've been talking about that with my boyfriend, and we're both vaccinated, but we have been still wearing our masks, and I don't know. It's so weird. I don't know, but I guess for me personally, it doesn't bother me at all. Like wearing the mask. I don't know if it's just the ones I have are fine or just, I don't know. But when I only use the paper masks when I'm dancing, I have like cloth masks to teach in and go around in. But yeah, it doesn't bother me. So I don't know. I guess it's fine. But I think a big part of wearing masks, aside from my health, is just to, make sure other people feel comfortable. If it doesn't bother me, I have no problem leaving it on for a little while longer. And
I'm a very pro mask for, like, I think anytime I fly from now on, I'll just have my mask and fly. Because I used to always get a cold every time I flew. Yeah. Every time. It was like, okay. So now I'm like, oh, well, this thing obviously works because I haven't had a cold in over a year.
I know. Oh my gosh.
This is amazing. So
definitely
in those aspects,
airports.
But there's a level where you go like, okay, going to Target is not really, I don't feel like I'm in an unsafe situation.
Yeah. I've definitely been more lax about it, especially like at like outside, way more relaxed, but I just haven't. I don't know. It's so weird. I'm not ready.
Right.
Am I ready? I don't know.
It's a weird thing to try to wrap your head around. But I would imagine, are you guys, so I'm going to bring this back around now. We're going to tie this all up in a nice little bow.
Unbound Ballet Project.
Unbound Ballet Project.
Yes.
So this episode will come out, and then the weekend fall, like, so it's the 28th
and 29th
and 29th
shows.
of
and then
May.
we'll do Piccolo Spoleto as well on Memorial Day.
See? So you have all of these awesome performances. Will you guys are going to be outdoors for the tradesman stuff.
Right.
Will you guys be masked for that?
No, we won't. We did the show back in October. I think it was October. And that was outside. We weren't masked.
Yeah.
A lot of us are very close. Like when we had a little group of people that we would only see, it was these dancers pretty much.
Right,
so,
right.
I mean,
You guys are like family at this point.
Yes, I think so. And so we are not going to be performing masked, but
and you will be outside.
Yes, we're outside. It's very spread out.
And if I remember correctly, I did go see the last one, which was the same performance, same choreographer.
Right. Yeah. The four amazing female choreographers. It's been an honor to be in this show.
It was so much fun, but I remember because it's on the concrete and you guys were doing like moves where you're like getting on the ground and getting up quickly and stuff like that. And one girl cut her leg doing that.
I think that was Chelsea Robichaux. What a legend. Hardcore.
Totally. And I was just like, wow. Like that is some hardcore, like, cause she obviously didn't even make any kind of reaction to it. She just bled out while she was dancing.
I know. Well, that's like going back, because we're trained to just not act like anything happened.
Yeah.
And for a while, I don't even think she knew she was bleeding.
Oh, yeah. It was like,
because, you're not really looking down. And our shoes are bright, like crisp white sneakers. But she just went along with it because, she's going to go ahead and assume that no one saw anything. I mean, maybe her ankle just burns a little bit. You have to assume or just tell yourself nothing happened and just keep going. And then if you're bleeding, figure it out later. But who cares?
That was pretty intense. But I love all of that. I love the idea. It's kind of like you don't want someone to get hurt. You don't want someone to get cut. But the fact that you guys do it and it just the toughness, the dedication to this art form is so immense and so amazing. I love seeing those little reminders of things like, holy cow, they just like, like, oh my gosh, like that's more normally, then you watch guys playing like professional soccer.
And they like fake falling
near them and they're on the ground rolling.
Yeah. I've always thought that was so funny, but I don't know. I mean, even today, oh my gosh, I feel terrible. I was dancing with Amanda. We were partnering and it's kind of improved. So she just happened to go, what was it? She was going down with her chin or her face as I was bringing my elbow up and we were facing each other. And I got her mouth and like, I felt her tooth on my elbow, but I look up and her lip is bleeding and I just felt so terrible. And it was but she was like, the music was playing, we were rehearsing and I was like, oh my God, are you okay? And she said, oh, I'm fine. And she kept going. I was like, no, you're bleeding. You're not fine. And then only then did she step out. But I know she only stepped out because it was a chill rehearsal and she was able to like go clean it up. It wasn't that big of a deal. But if we were in a show, I just know. I mean, she's so strong, I mean, she and professional, she would have just gone through like nothing ever happened, go, ouchie, my lip hurts in her head, but don't say anything and just maybe she'd have blood coming down her cheek or chin. I don't know. But she was so sweet, but God, I feel so terrible. But that just happened a couple hours ago. So, I mean, wow, what a legend. She just made it through.
All of you guys are, I'm serious. Like, I feel like there should be some way that you guys could harness that toughness and explain it, because it's the kind of toughness that only comes from a passion. Like, you guys are so passionate about what you do that like nothing is going to stop you.
Yeah.
It's pretty amazing.
I think just, I don't think, I mean, I don't look at it that way, as in like, oh, I'm being tough right now. Mm-hmm. I guess there have been a few times where I'm like, okay, this is a hard situation and you're handling it.
Just getting up on stage is brave. Yeah. Performing is tough. It's not easy. It's easy for you probably in your head right now because you've been doing it for so long. Scary, though. But it's scary. There's a lot of things that you guys do, that you do, that are just unattainable for most people. Like, you guys are so special and specific, and just tough is, I think, the best word to explain it, because it's nothing's gonna stop you from dancing.
Yeah, I think that's the thing, is we just look at the big picture. We just want to dance, and we've been told, in order to dance, you just have to stick it out through certain things. And so I mean, like, if I fall and hurt myself, I guess I don't really think about it as being like, oh, I'm tough, I'm getting back up. I'm like, oh, I need to finish the dance.
But I think it's inspiring, especially given what we've all gone through. Mm-hmm. That passion, that toughness, that only comes through having that kind of a passion. Like, trying to seek those things, trying to identify the things in your life that you're that passionate about, that nothing would. For a lot of people, it might be being a parent, or even having a pet. Like, there's a certain, like, if you have an animal in your life that you love, there's nothing you wouldn't do for it. Mm-hmm. And to find that in your life in such a beautiful, artistic, expressive way, such a gift to everyone around you as well. You're just enriching everyone's life. And I really, really, really hope you guys understand that there are those of us out there that see this and appreciate it and support it fully as much as we can. And if you're listening to this, if you've gotten to this point and you have not gone to crystalwellman.com, and I'll link it in the show, the show description. If you didn't go pick up a ticket or check out the Spoleto thing, I'm not sure where you get tickets for that. I guess
I'm
Spoleto.
Not sure either, honestly. Piccolo Spoleto. But the tickets for the Unbound shows on the 20th and 29th are only $10. I just found that out the other day.
So cheap.
I just think the world needs some art right now.
And bring some extra cash and give it, because I'm sure there'll be a donation bucket somewhere.
I think we just wanted to get...
Or Venmo them some money.
Venmo.
Yeah. Send them some cash.
No, we just wanted to get some... personally, I feel like this is more for me. But it's not my show, but as a dancer, I just want to dance and be back in it. Yeah. But I do, it does feel special being able to give audience members just something fun, especially back when we were doing it in October, when things were definitely more serious. And COVID was never not serious, but it was a little more intense. I think people needed some sort of uplifting thing for a little while. And I was lucky. I'm so grateful to have been a part of that show, because it it felt like I needed that experience and everyone around me needed that experience. It didn't feel like, this is so weird to say, but I didn't feel like the dancers were the only like people working there. Like, it just felt like we were all working in tandem, like with the audience, and it just, that energy from them helped us. Yeah. Like, I don't know.
It was a wonderful performance, and I can't wait to see it again. I'm so excited. I'm so excited for you guys. I'm so excited for the people who get to see this stuff. And if you're a creative person, you're listening to this podcast, and maybe you've never seen, you don't understand the significance of what we're talking about, because Unbound Ballet is kind of, I've said this to Crystal. She laughs at me, but I still hold it true in my heart. You guys are like a punk rock band doing it yourself. You know what I'm saying? Like, you guys are doing all of the things. You are a professional company that works outside of the season of your other professional companies that you work for. And it's purely people who all love it equally, putting in everything, and you will get so much out of it just from that brief moment of, or moments of watching this performance. I can't explain it any other way. Like you will get as much out of it as they're getting out of it as well. If you go there and check it out, it's an easy $10 to spend.
It's such a cool show too. I have to say, I mean, the choreographers are all unbelievable. Crystal, as you know, I mean, she's an insane choreographer. I love her stuff. She's definitely been like the boss lady and just kind of keeping us together. And, you know, just there's Starla and there's Sarah and Caitlin. Everybody, they've worked together to create this just insane production. It's so good.
And it's mixed. And it's not just ballet, right? It's
very contemporary.
Yes.
Very much contemporary movement. It's maybe the least balletic thing we've done.
Is that a word, balletic?
I don't know.
I've never heard that.
I may just make that up.
I hope not.
Maybe.
But if you
Balletic.
did, then I'm giving you credit because that's a cool word.
Okay. I'll
Balletic.
take it. Well, it's and I don't know. I mean, I haven't been around since the very beginning of Unbound. Well, actually, I don't know when Unbound was formed. That'd be a good question for her. But there was one production that happened the year before I came, and that was called Light Lines.
I saw
and that was small, yeah. And then Abyss is when I joined in.
Yes.
Which was kind of like the opposite of Light Lines, and it's very dark. And then eventually,
that was in a theater, and that was like not on the main stage. It was like off to the side, and you guys. I remember you guys had run through the show like multiple times before the show, and then watching the show, I'm like, oh, how are you all still standing? I mean, sweat pouring off
feels
of the
good
dancers,
to sweat like that, though,
and just like you could feel the heat coming off of you guys, and
That's why I think live performance is cool.
Oh,
I mean, you
just
hear the breath, and with It Never Changes to Stop, which is the show we're doing on May 20th and 29th, we're wearing sneakers on concrete.
Yeah.
And it's very cool. You can hear the of our feet brushing, and I think it adds so much more. And you can hear our breath, and
you can feel the wind as you're running by.
Fly off, and
because you're close enough where you can you get a different perspective. You're not on a stage.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a flash mob of dancing, but it's organized.
Yeah. I mean, we're all on the same level, so they're
that's so cool.
Everyone's at eye level with us, which is it's weird as a dancer too, because when you're on a stage, you have theater lighting. You can't see anybody in the audience. It is black. Like they have to put a light out near like the sound booth so that you can see, like, where the front is.
The front of the house is. Yeah.
Yeah. So, or like the most downstage is. But when you can see everyone around you, that adds a whole nother thing. It's like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's my neighbor. That is
I love it.
My friend. I don't know. It's cool.
I love it. Everything about it is fun. And the worst thing that can happen is you just hang out with your friends and have a beer.
Yeah.
Come on down. That's all I'm telling people.
It's an awesome show, and
yeah,
I can't recommend it enough.
Well, thank you so much for coming here and talking about your passion, your experience, and you're just an amazing dancer. I don't know if I said that yet.
Thank you.
But you are an amazing dancer, and thank you for giving me your time to sit here and talk about all of the awesome things you've done.
Gosh, thank you so much. I was so nervous. I didn't know what to expect, but this was so much fun, and I would love to do it again.
Oh yeah. I'd love to get a couple of you guys in here because I feel like the stories that you guys would have that you wouldn't even recall, but someone else might bounce off, and then all of a sudden, like, I think you guys would open up about all of the crazy stuff that goes on, because I can't imagine the amount of passion that you guys have for what you do doesn't have kind of a yin and yang, like you guys. And I've gotten that from Crystal and Amanda. Like, you kind of go wild at some points because you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
you have your kind of dangerous moments of going out drinking all night, that type of thing, whatever it may be. There's just a load of dedication and passion in what you guys do. And I'm just so, I can't even, I'm babbling at this point, but I think people understand it.
I mean, I've been babbling this entire time.
But
Took us forever to get back to Unbound Ballet Project.
I know, but I wrapped up so nicely. Thank
Put
you.
a little bow on it.
All right. People can find you on social media. You're mostly Instagram?
Mostly Instagram. I don't tweet or anything like that, but Natasha.Nast.
Are you any other? I should probably ask because TikTok apparently is now the big thing.
Oh, okay.
Are you on
so
TikTok?
I have a TikTok account. I don't post anything. I
lose
my
hours
boyfriend
of your life
sends
to it.
me my boyfriend sends me like videos on it. So I'll get like messages, but that's
my wife does that too. She sends them because I won't install the app on my phone. I'm like, I don't need another social media in my life at this point. But then she'll just send them to me. I'm like, well, it's like I have it because I'm constantly getting these messages, and it's it's fun. But so Natasha.Nast on Instagram, and I'll link that as well. You have your own website, or is you just kind of like?
Nope. I mean, I just on my little Instagram. It's nothing fancy, just random pictures, but.
And your two main companies at the moment are Palmetto City and Unbound?
Yeah, Palmetto City Ballet, Unbound Ballet Project. And that's awesome. It. And lots of teaching and
so much fun. All right. Well, I can't wait to see the show. Good luck with everything.
Thank you so much.
And I'll hold on. Good luck. Hold on. It's going to go great.
Oh my
Wait,
God.
I had to knock on the wood.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
I might have to add it. I don't know if that'll pick up on the mic. I might have to add it.
No. We'll see.
All right. Awesome.
Thank you.
Before you get going, don't forget to subscribe to the show if you haven't already. And also, you can check out more at jwnpod.com or follow me on Instagram at JoeLatex. That's at JOEL, the number 8X. Have a great day. Peace.